June 1st, 1893. After just 2 years of construction, the 10-mile stretch of track known as the Salt Lake and Los Angeles Railway began operation. The small switchback shuttled passengers and freight from Magna, Utah to Garfield, with a stop at Salt Lake City in between. The opening was met with little fanfare, embodying the lack of attention the railway received from the public. The Salt Lake Tribune reports that the moment the first spike was laid, no trumpets, no brass bands, no speeches. Perhaps the citizens of Salt Lake County weren't too excited, as just 20 years prior, the Transcontinental Railroad successfully connected to Salt Lake, which was an occasion much more deserving of celebration. Or perhaps, the city didn't play their hand too soon, knowing the railway was just one half in a monumentous feat that would change the county forever. Just 1 week later, the Lady of the Lake opened her doors, the Saltair. From the outside, passerbys could marvel at her stunning Moorish-style architecture, designed by renowned Utah architect Richard K.A. Kletting, most known for designing the Utah State Capitol. She stood on the south shore of the Great Salt Lake, about 16 miles from downtown Salt Lake City. The aforementioned Salt Lake and Los Angeles Railway, nicknamed then the Saltair Railway, primarily shuttled passengers to the resort, as it quickly became a popular tourist destination, not just in Utah, but the whole country. The resort was the pinnacle of luxury and entertainment, with many dubbing it the Coney Island of the West. Guests would enter under a beautiful front building, where they could buy tickets, and guests arriving via train could depart and board. They would walk out of this building to enter the center of the resort, a sprawling boardwalk with carnival games, a merry-go-round, and vendors selling candy and confectionaries. Here you could enter any of the adjoining pavilions, which held dance halls and theaters. At the far back of the resort, you could step down into the Great Salt Lake herself and bathe in the incredibly buoyant salt water. This was the main attraction of the Saltair. At the center of the resort sat a grand bandstand, where guests could hear jazz bands from across the nation perform. You're currently hearing a rendition of When You're Counting the Stars Alone, often performed by R. Owen Sweeten's Jazziferous Band, which often played at the Saltair. It wasn't good times forever, though. On April 23, 1925, a fire broke out that destroyed 3 buildings, including the large front pavilion and the Hippodrome. Investors chipped in and some parts were rebuilt, but the growing popularity of cars and public transit soon hindered the Saltair's convenience, as it was constructed with railways in mind. Soon, the Salt Lake began rapidly receding, stealing away the Saltair's main attraction, swimming. This, coupled with the 1957 collapse of the Saltair's premier wooden roller coaster, known as the Giant Racer, and it was too much for her to bear, the Saltair officially closed her doors after the 1958 summer season. It was during this time, as it sat abandoned in the early 1960s, the horror film Carnival of Souls would film a large amount of scenes and center the plot around the abandoned building.
This used to be quite a place. It's been deserted for a long time now.
Carnival of Souls would go on to grow a massive cult following, and maybe in another timeline the film's success could have led to a small tourist revitalization for the property, but fate had other things in store. But fate had other things in store. November 1970, an unknown arsonist set fire to the abandoned structure, utterly destroying what little chance there was to a possible reopening. In 1981, plans to rebuild the Saltaire resurfaced. Eventually, it was decided to build a small concert venue with an exterior design inspired by the Saltaire. It was named the Great Saltaire. It still stands today, despite enduring a flood 2 months after its opening. You can still visit the venue, and while you're there, look for the small sights, the little hints of what stood there many years ago. The Wonder of the West, the Carnival of Souls, the Great Saltaire.